Packers were back on the field for day 2 of training camp, and we've got all of the footage and highlights here for you to watch. First, let's start by taking a look who didn't participate in today's practice. So we've got David Bahktiari out with a rest day, and Tay Wicks, who's out with a concussion that he sustained yesterday. Back on the field after missing yesterday's practice from illness, however, is Caleb Jones, Tariq Carpenter, and Tarvarius Moore. Some notable names as starters and second teamers are Watson, Reed, and Dobbs were the top 3 receivers. Along the offensive line with Bahktiari out was Yash, Jenkins, Myers, Runyon, and Tom from left to right. On defense, Kingsley Enagbari, or JJ Enagbari, ended up making the start alongside Preston Smith instead of Justin Hollins, who had started yesterday's practice. And at safety again was Rudy Ford and Darnell Savage starting. The notable second teamers on there were Jonathan Owens and Dallin Levitt, though I expect that to change a lot in the coming weeks. And Danny Etling held down the number 2 quarterback spot again. And make sure to stick around until the end for 11-on-11 footage too. Jordan Love out here on the run, nailing that net. Absolutely drills it in there. Beautiful ball. And here's another look at that same throw. He's expected, I think, to be a little bit more mobile this year than we've seen out of Aaron Rodgers in the past couple seasons. Kind of a young Aaron Rodgers deal. Andy Herman even noted that he scrambled a bit more and was a little bit more active with his legs than what we've seen in the past, so I think that's something we'll look forward to in the coming season. So here Love connects with Romeo Dobbs in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown. It's a pass on air, but you'd like to see that ball get a little bit higher so Dobbs can really go up and high point that ball. In this clip, you see Danny Etling missing Romeo Dobbs just a little bit outside, while Jordan Love puts a perfect ball right on the numbers of Christian Watson in the back of the end zone. We saw a lot of clips of Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson working side by side today, and their chemistry with Jordan Love continues to build, and it's becoming very obvious that he's comfortable targeting them, which is easy to understand when Christian Watson makes plays like this. Here we see Malik Heath, another guy who's been a pretty notable name throughout OTAs and camp. I continue to think that, there's a growing sense that he is going to make this 53-man roster. Jordan Love had a bit of a bounce-back day from day 1, but it wasn't perfect. Here you see him targeting the newest receiver on the roster, Cody Crest, followed by hitting Chris Watson on this out right at the goal line, which we'll see again in some of the contraband footage we got of 11-on-11. And here the same with Romeo Dobbs on a little bit of a high ball. Notice too the difference of how Watson and Dobbs break out of their route. Watson is a little bit more rounded on that, but Dobbs is a little bit more precise right clean down that line. And then it was later pointed out that Watson and Dobbs were working off to the side during special teams drills against Jaire Alexander. Iron sharpening iron. And here we get our first look at Josiah DeGuara in this training camp, at least from a highlight perspective. Here we got a little bit of a different, better angle of it, but we'll see how much he contributes to this offense in a traditional tight end role this year. And if he can take some playing time away from guys like Tucker Kraft, and who we'll see in a moment here, Luke Musgrave. From all accounts, it's very clear that Luke Musgrave is a starting tight end, or tight end 1. The versatility he's going to bring in the passing game is going to have to outweigh some of the liability that's probably going to be associated with him in the run game. The important thing, though, is that he's a willing blocker. He's out there putting in the effort, and he's going to get the work done to improve. And I think throughout the year, we'll see that come to fruition. In the meantime, though, it's going to rely on guys like A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones to carry some of that run game instead. And I think some of the play-action pass that's going to come off of that run will help open up running lanes later on as well. The run game is going to support the pass game and vice versa. Moving over to the defensive side, some defensive backs made some noise today, particularly Carrington Valentine and Corey Ballentine. Seen here working on some backpedal drills and then breaking on the ball. In another angle, you can really see the fluidity as, 37 here, Valentine breaks on the ball and makes a nice hands catch. Ballentine, who's also a proven special teamer, shows his great hands right here on this play as well. Not to mention his lateral agility that he shows off, in that immediate kind of press that this drill calls for. But don't worry, Jaire follows it up and shows he's pretty damn good at this thing too, making an outstanding catch here. And as Coach LaFleur pointed out, Keyshawn Nixon is going to get his fair shake at starting in the slot. And so far in camp, he's made a few plays as a nickelback, following up from what was a pretty good showing in a small sample size last year. Overall, I really like the talent that we have in our secondary, but I'm really curious to see how that safety room shakes out. There wasn't a whole lot of footage of them today, but it's still, from who started out there, seeing Savage and Ford as the starters, and then Dallin Levitt and Jonathan Owens out there in the second team. I personally want to see some Anthony Johnson Jr. I want to see Tarvarius Moore out there, and I want to see where they're going to go with this safety room. But it's also going to be really fun to see this defensive front once pads come on. Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis ranked the Packers' defensive front within the top 10 of the NFL. That's pretty lofty, but when you look at it, look at the edge group. You see Rashawn Gary, granted coming off an injury, Preston Smith, solid contributor. Justin Hollins played well once he joined the team last year. Enigbari really came on and had one of the better pressure rates of a rookie last year. And then you add Lucas Van Ness to that room. Not to mention, Kenny Clark is a beast. Devontae Wyatt has a lot of potential moving forward. And then even guys like Slayton, both of the Slaytons really, haven't lived up to their potential yet. So we'll see what that defensive front can become. In this clip, we see Lucas Van Ness getting some pressure and then putting, through this strip drill, really just targeting that ball and punching that thing out of the ball carrier's hands, focusing on trying to cause disruptive plays for the offense. And Brenton Cox doing the same in this clip. And he's one of those guys that really has a chance to make this roster. That pedigree is almost enough to carry him onto the roster alone. And so far, he's proven to be a pretty hard worker. Look at the get-off that Lucas Van Ness has on this clip here. If he can develop his technique a little bit more, he's going to be a real threat for offenses. Let's watch that again, paired next to Justin Hollins, just to see the difference of their speed. Another guy who has that same kind of get-off is Rashawn Gary. We see here he's working through some of his rehab stuff, working a dummy and dipping around the edge to get after the quarterback. Looking at it from the other side, kind of operating with that right knee that he's rehabbing, you see that it's just a slight bit slower than the other side. But it's still remarkable, the quickness he has coming off of that injury that he had.
In today's competitive 11-on-11 session, the Packers focus on red zone. So we got a little bit of a look at, how this red zone defense can stand up, but also some of the different looks that the Packers were employing in a red zone situation. For instance, in this play that we get the pleasure of watching thanks to Big B posting some contraband footage on Twitter, we see Jayden Reed taking an end around and just showing some of his speed and his versatility that the Packers are looking to use. We haven't had a guy like that since Tyler Irving, and now we're looking at not only Jayden Reed, but also if Tyler Goodson sticks around, that he's going to be another person that can bring some of that versatility, as we've seen him line up out wide too. And that wasn't the only play that Jayden Reed made on the day. Here, Love throws a perfect ball, zooming the ball right past Devondre Campbell's ear hole en route to Jayden Reed for a touchdown in the red zone period. Now let's hope we can see Jayden Reed stack that success over a couple days. Campbell did get his revenge though on Love. On this tipped ball, Campbell ends up coming up with the interception. Love was really trying to squeeze this thing into a tight window. There was pressure coming off the edge from Enigbari, and really there was 4 defenders around. Love ended up redeeming himself with this tight window pass at the goal line to Christian Watson, with Rasul Douglas just fingertips away from batting that ball away. And you can see over on the sideline just how frustrated Sewell is as he kicks over a trash can. And here's a slightly closer look at that play again. You see, coming off that play action, planting that foot and just driving that ball right at the pylon. But it was all still a little bit too short, as the defense overall ended up winning the red zone period. And so it was up downs for the offensive unit. Alex Magoo was actually the one who had the final drive in the red zone period, and he managed to get a touchdown pass out of it. On his reps in the red zone, Magoo was pressured on first down into an incomplete pass, forced to scramble on third down, but ended up throwing it away. He recovered on fourth down from a
a low snap and ended up finding Bo Melton on a slant for the touchdown. Also during that red zone period, Jaire Alexander went down. Thankfully, as I'm reporting this today, he was back on the practice field for, a light practice today with no issues whatsoever. So it does seem that the issue was just cramping due to the heat.
Well, that wraps up day 2. We'll be back on Saturday for another practice. And stay tuned as, But stick around and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're back here, because I'm going to take a look at the first week of training camp in a little bit of a closer lens. And we're effectively 1 week away from family night, which means preseason is about 2 weeks away.